Have you ever felt lonely even when you're surrounded by others? Not because they abandoned you, but because you've grown used to abandoning yourself quietly every single day. You move through each morning by checking who texted you, who cares, who noticed your presence. But you've forgotten the most important thing. There is someone who has never left, never turned away. Someone who has witnessed every version of you from brave to broken, from strong to shattered. And that person is you. We live in an era where attention is valued more than truth. You could spend your whole life trying to be loved by others and still never learn how to love yourself. You could master the art of pleasing the world while slowly draining your own heart. The Stoics wouldn't call that self-love in the modern sense. They called it the discipline of inner respect, a habit of treating yourself with sober rigor, not self-pity, and not the lull of hollow affirmations. Because no one can save you if you keep betraying yourself every day. In today's video, we won't talk about feel-good self-help cliches. We're going straight into 7 Stoic habits that will teach you not only how to love yourself, but how to remain unshaken in a world that constantly makes you doubt that love. You don't need to be loved by others. You will become unshakable either way. And it all begins with how you speak to yourself each morning. 1. Stop pleasing everyone. Start choosing yourself. There is a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from work or responsibility, but from living as someone you never wanted to become. It's when you smile to keep the peace, even though you're breaking inside. When you nod in agreement, while every cell in your body wants to scream no. When you try to be nice, sweet and agreeable, not because it's who you are, but because you're afraid of being abandoned if you're not. Many people live this way. Not because they're weak, but because no one ever taught them how to live truthfully without fearing loss. We grow up in a world that pretends to celebrate individuality, but actually worships pleasantness as defined by others. If you're easygoing, you're liked. If you're quiet, you're called mature. If you're self-sacrificing, you're seen as a good person. But few ever ask, after all that, what's left for you? The Stoics never taught us to live for the approval of others. On the contrary, they urged us to observe every emotion and action with clarity, to discern between conscience and the habit of shrinking yourself to be accepted. Epictetus once said, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish." Because the cleverness you once took pride in may have only been the skill of avoiding conflict by betraying yourself. The truth is, no one can go through life without disappointing someone. But while you're trying not to hurt anyone, you've neglected the one person already hurt the most, yourself. When did you start believing that saying no is impolite? When did you become more afraid of upsetting others than of slowly eroding your own soul? When did guilt become more comfortable than rejection? These feelings don't come from goodness. They come from a quiet fear. Fear of being left behind, of being judged, of losing a fragile place in someone else's heart. But if you have to keep wounding yourself just to stay, then is that place truly worth keeping? You may think you're just trying to be kind to others, but every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you stay silent when you should speak, every time you agree just to avoid trouble, you're teaching yourself that others' desires matter more than your own inner truth. Over time, that won't make you more loved. It will just make you forget how to love yourself. Stoicism doesn't teach selfishness, it teaches self-command. It doesn't teach hardness to overpower others, but to preserve your center in a world always trying to pull you away from yourself. True gentleness doesn't come from pleasing everyone, but from living honestly, mindfully, and without pretending. Real kindness isn't submission, It's the ability to know your boundaries and still choose to love others without harming yourself. If you're feeling drained, it's not because you're too weak. It's because you've tried too long to live as someone who's no longer you. And if you're starting to feel lost, that's a good sign. It means you're beginning to hear your own voice again, the one that's been buried under the noise of expectations that never belonged to you. Starting today, begin with one small act. Give yourself permission not to explain. Say no without guilt. Step away from conversations that exhaust you without apology. Decline invitations you don't truly want to accept. You don't have to be cold, and you don't have to hurt anyone. You just need to stop hurting yourself. And one day, when you've grown used to placing yourself at the center of your life, you'll see no one ever truly leaves you for living in alignment with your values. Those who go were only there for the agreeable version of you. Those who stay, stay because they see the real you, not the sweet, convenient, easily controlled version. You don't need to be endlessly tolerant to be seen as kind. You don't have to accept everything to prove you're noble. You only need the courage to live by what you believe and take responsibility for it. Because in the end, self-respect doesn't come from how others see you. It comes from looking in the mirror and not feeling ashamed of the person looking back. 2. Respect the body as the shelter of the soul. There's a simple truth that few take time to recognize. You can change jobs, move cities, walk away from people, or seek a new beginning. But this body, it's the only thing that will go with you from the moment you're born until the day you die. Every experience you've lived, every pain you've buried, every moment you've disrespected yourself is stored in this body. It doesn't complain, it doesn't demand, but it never forgets. We speak often about self-love, yet we forget that the body is the part most often neglected. People invest in intellect, pursue spiritual growth, chase success, yet still ignore the signs of physical depletion that show up in every shallow breath, restless night, and nameless fatigue. We treat the body like a machine, run it constantly, eat carelessly, move rarely, sleep irregularly, and when it rebels, we blame it for being weak. But the body never betrays us. It only reflects how we've treated it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "What injures the hive injures the bee." You cannot live a meaningful life if the biological foundation, the only thing anchoring your soul to this world, is slowly being destroyed by your own neglect. The more you abandon your body, the further you drift from yourself. Because your body isn't just flesh, it is the dwelling of your consciousness, and the soul cannot rest peacefully in a crumbling shelter. Take a look at how you're living. Do you eat because you're truly hungry or just to fill a void? Do you sleep to recover or to escape? Do you move your body because it needs to breathe or because you hate the reflection in the mirror? The smallest choice is the glass of water you drink, the rushed meals you swallow, the habits you maintain or abandon are the clearest indicators of how much you respect yourself. And no one can teach you self-love until you've learned to care for the vessel that holds your soul. There are people who pour everything into becoming a socially accepted version of success, yet can't climb a flight of stairs without losing breath. People who speak of grand dreams yet can't sleep on time, can't stop consuming what poisons their body, can't spare 10 minutes a day to breathe properly. They think the problem is willpower, but deeper than that, it's forgetfulness, a forgetting of the sacredness of their body. You don't need to be an athlete or follow some punishing regime. You just need to begin with awareness. Listen to your body as if you're tending to a fragile child, a being who has carried you through countless hardships without ever once complaining. This isn't about beauty, it's about gratitude. When you eat a clean, nourishing meal, it's not just physiology. It's a quiet thank you to a body that has swallowed so much toxicity during your moments of surrender. When you take time to walk, stretch, move naturally and consistently, it's not because you want to look better. It's because you want to soothe every muscle and joint that has borne the weight of your emotions for years. When you choose to sleep on time, put the phone down, and allow yourself real rest, it's not because you should. It's because you understand that tomorrow's clarity begins with today's forgiveness. Your body doesn't need to be perfect, but it needs to be heard. It needs you to recognize you are living in it, not separate from it. And if you don't build a healthy relationship with your body, then all personal development, all success formulas, all your goals will be castles in the sand. Because nothing can stand strong if the foundation is crumbling. Once you begin to live as though your body is a sacred dwelling, you'll see miracles unfold. You'll no longer crave admiration from others because you've learned to respect yourself. You'll no longer force your body into arbitrary standards because you'll understand that health is a feeling, not a number. And you'll no longer use food or indulgence to punish yourself because you've matured enough to know that forgiveness begins with care. Confidence doesn't come from appearance. It comes from the feeling that you're living in harmony with your body. A person who walks with gratitude in every breath, even without six-pack abs or an ideal figure, still carries a presence that commands respect from the world. Because in the end, you don't need a beautiful body to be loved. You need a healthy body to love without breaking. No one can go far if they're using their own feet to run from themselves. And no one can ever find true peace if they continue to treat their body like a tool instead of a sanctuary. 3. Stop the comparison game. Start living your own life. There is a quiet kind of fatigue you can't name. It doesn't come from work. It doesn't come from failure. It comes from witnessing someone else's progress every day while you're not even sure where you're going. One careless scroll on social media, one story, one post, one offhand comment, and suddenly you feel small, behind, not fast enough, not good enough, not anything enough. Comparison is a silent but devastating game. It doesn't strike you down with a blow. It makes you slowly destroy yourself with the feeling of not measuring up. It corrodes your soul with the toxic silence of, I'm not enough, I'm too slow, I've lost my way. And just like that, you begin to lose faith in yourself, not because you have nothing, but because you're using the wrong measuring stick. Seneca once warned, a poor man isn't the one who has little, but the one who never feels he has enough. The worst kind of poverty isn't in your wallet. It's in a narrow gaze that looks only upward at others' lives instead of downward to nurture your own. You think you need to work harder, to hustle more. But in truth, you're just trying to become someone you were never born to be. When you stop and truly look inward, you'll see something. Your life is like no one else's. No one has suffered in your timeline. No one has learned to rise in your unique way. No one carries the same untold stories, unhealed scars, or unfinished dreams as you do. And that's not a flaw. That's identity. We live in an era flooded with images designed to make you feel lacking. Success stories are told without mention of the loneliness behind them. Timelines are set as life standards. By a certain age, you must have this, be there, achieve that. But no one lives your life. No one bears the weight of your sleepless nights. No one feels the quiet sadness sitting in your chest each morning. So why force yourself to walk someone else's map? Comparison doesn't make you grow. It only paralyzes. It drains you of the energy to enjoy what you have. You stop feeling joy from small tasks. You stop feeling gratitude for peaceful days. You stop feeling proud of quietly overcoming your battles. Because you're too busy looking sideways just to see if you're enough. Don't confuse inspiration with pressure. Inspiration expands your vision. Comparison shuts your heart down. Someone who inspires you makes you think, I can too. But comparison tells you, I'll never be like them. And then you begin living out of alignment just to resemble someone who isn't even real. Stop. Not because you're losing, but because you're running in the wrong direction. The right path isn't measured by speed, but by honesty with your soul. What do you truly want? What do you need to feel at peace? What do you actually value in this life? Ask not the world, but yourself. From the moment you start asking the right questions, you'll discover something miraculous. Relief. You'll care less about who's ahead. You'll begin to notice milestones you once passed without applause or recognition. You'll start living as if this journey is yours alone, with no need for permission or proof. Comparison makes you a replica, but honesty makes you an original. An original doesn't need to stand out to be loved. They only need to live true so they don't despise themselves. When you stop looking outward, you'll realize all the answers have been waiting inside you all along. Living without comparison is an act of courage. It means enduring the loneliness, accepting the road less traveled, and staying grounded even when no one understands what you're doing. But that's solitude. It's the gate to inner freedom. No one chains you except yourself when you keep looking outward instead of returning inward. Learn to celebrate others without using it to diminish yourself. Learn to see their success as a reminder that it's possible for you too, in your own way. And if you must compare, then let it be this. Are you better today than you were yesterday? When you stop playing the comparison game, you begin a far more important journey. The journey of living the life assigned to you. No one else can walk it. No one else can live it. And no one else can write that story except you. 4. Speak to yourself the way you'd speak to someone you deeply love. Have you ever noticed that the one person who listens to you your whole life is you? And ironically, the person you often treat the most harshly is also you. We live in a world that teaches us to speak kindly to others, yet allows us to coexist with an inner voice that's relentlessly cruel. When you make a mistake, it condemns. When you fail, it withholds forgiveness. When you collapse, it doesn't help you back up. You wonder why you're exhausted without realizing you're worn down from living with an inner companion who constantly judges and doubts. Marcus Aurelius once said, "We become what we repeatedly think." Not enemies, not the past, but thoughts, the ones you whisper to yourself each day, are shaping who you are. Imagine a friend comes to you in their worst moment. They cry, they tremble, they say they feel awful, useless, and unworthy of love. What would you do? Would you hold them and say, "You've tried your best, I know you're tired"? Or would you look them in the eye and say, "Yes, you are pathetic"? Of course not. So why do you accept those words from yourself every single day? We're obsessed with toughness to the point that we forget. Compassion, especially toward yourself, is not weakness. It's the foundation of healing. A person who doesn't know how to speak kindly to themselves will always rely on kind words from others. And when those words don't come, they fall apart. Stoics didn't teach indulgence, but they did teach the discipline of observing and correcting unhelpful thoughts. Epictetus said, "Don't let a stranger control your mind. Be the guardian of your thoughts." That's not just a warning, it's a way of life. Choose what you allow yourself to believe. Not every voice in your head is truth. Many are echoes of judgment, wounds, and old pressures. The problem is, we never taught ourselves a new language to replace it. You grew up hearing your parents call you worthless. You matured in environments demanding perfection. You were hurt by cold stares, abandoned without answers. And all of that silently became the voice in your head repeating non-stop. You began to believe that if you're not good enough, not deserving, then you should attack yourself before anyone else does. But one day you realize, self-criticism doesn't make you better. It only depletes you, and when you're too drained to believe in anything, you don't need a lesson. You need someone to say in a warm, steady voice, "You've made it this far. That means you're already doing well." Love doesn't come from praise, it comes from presence. And the deepest presence is when you sit with yourself without escape, without excuses, without punishment, just listening. Ask, "How are you feeling today?" Ask, "What do you need from me?" Then stay quiet and let the unspoken answer rise from your chest. There are days you don't need to be stronger, just gentler with yourself. Instead of repeating "I'm worthless," say, "I didn't do well today, but it's okay. I'll try again." That's how you rebuild confidence, not through miracles, but through language. Language doesn't change the outside world, but it changes how you see yourself. And when you change your view, you change your life. Begin practicing. When you make a mistake, instead of saying, "How stupid are you?" try, "I see you were worried. Let's learn from this." When you look in the mirror, instead of judging, try looking longer and saying, "I see you're tired, but you're still here. Thank you for not giving up." When rejected, instead of tearing yourself down, try, "They didn't choose me, but I still choose me." And if those words feel awkward, fake, or untrue, don't blame yourself. You're relearning something forgotten, how to befriend yourself. Like any friendship, it takes time, patience, and many moments of silent listening. People don't become strong just because they endure. They're strong because they learn to stand by themselves when no one else does. They learn to speak to themselves with a steady voice, not flattering, not false, but also not cruel. And one day you'll notice that voice inside you has changed. It no longer condemns, it encourages. No longer humiliates, it guides. No longer echoes pain, it becomes the voice of a companion who has walked with you your whole life. From that moment on, you'll no longer be hostage to outside judgment, because you found a sanctuary within your own soul. 5. Love your own presence instead of fearing the silence. There is a strange kind of loneliness in our time. It's when you sit alone but can't sit still with yourself. No one's hurting you, no one's yelling, no one's left you. But inside, a quiet restlessness taps at every heartbeat, making you reach for music, scroll your phone, play a video, call someone, text someone, anything to avoid fully facing your own presence in silence. We live in a world where every quiet moment is treated like an emptiness to be filled. But perhaps it's not the silence we fear, but the naked truth that surfaces in it. That we've gone too long without touching our own self. Seneca once said, "A person who is afraid to be alone has never learned to be free." Freedom isn't the absence of company, it's when you can sit in stillness and not feel lacking. When you stop hoping someone will come to make you forget yourself and begin to return inward, to listen, to understand not others, but you. There's an uncomfortable truth. If you can't sit alone for 30 minutes without feeling anxious, it's not because you lack friends, but because you've never befriended yourself. You don't fear the silence because it's terrifying, but because it's the only door leading into the shadows of your mind, where buried emotions, forgotten dreams, and unhealed wounds await to be heard. Loving your own presence doesn't mean cutting off the world. It means creating an inner space you can lean into no matter how many people or noises surround you. It's when you take a walk without headphones, sit in a cafe without a screen, eat a quiet dinner and not feel empty. It's when you look in the mirror and no longer feel estranged by your own gaze. You start with small moments. A morning without touching your phone, an afternoon reading a few pages without expecting a like. These moments, seemingly ordinary, are when you start breathing in rhythm with your true self. And then you realize silence doesn't kill you. It saves you from unnecessary noise. It washes your mind clean of excess voices, borrowed expectations, and emotions that don't belong to you. In stillness, you can finally tell which dreams are truly yours and which were assigned to you. You feel which heartbeat is driven by anxiety and which by passion. You sense which sadness has fallen asleep and which wound still needs to be touched to heal. Presence is not a skill. It is a discipline of the soul. It is the ability to not flee when no one is watching, when there's nothing to prove. It is the serenity that comes from not needing attention and still feeling whole. It's when you start enjoying solitude, not because someone disappointed you, but because you've learned the deepest peace doesn't come from outside. And you'll find, when you no longer fear silence, you no longer fear losing people. You stop fearing being left behind. You stop clinging to temporary relationships just to fill a void, because you've built a home not elsewhere, but within yourself. A person who loves their own presence won't beg for someone else's. They love others from fullness, not from lack. They love as one who has already healed, not as someone desperate to be saved. They stay out of sincerity, not fear of the silence behind a closing door. You can start today. Turn off the noise, sit down, place your hand on your chest. Ask, what am I feeling right now? And just stay there. No need for answers, just be. Just breathe with yourself. Because presence is something no one can give you. It only arrives when you stop, look inward, and choose never to abandon yourself again. 6. Pursue the goals that make you feel alive, not just the ones that gain you praise. There are mornings when you don't wake up from a thirst for life, but simply because the alarm went off. You go to a job you don't hate, but don't love either. You move through the day with a list of tasks, not because they excite you, but because you're afraid of falling behind. And somewhere in that cycle, you lose something vital, the feeling that you're truly alive. There's something you must never confuse. Goals that make you feel alive and goals that earn you applause. The former comes from within. The latter comes from how others see you. One nourishes you. The other drains you in exchange for a few claps. Epictetus once said, "First, say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do." But we often do the opposite. We start with what earns praise, what is expected, what sounds like success. We study things that don't move us just because they offer higher status. We try to prove our worth without knowing what we even want to be worthy of. You cannot love yourself if each day you force yourself to chase goals that were never yours. A person can make lots of money, gain fame, even be called successful, and still feel empty because they never asked, does this goal make me feel alive? The right goal doesn't make you feel above others. It makes you feel deeper within yourself. It doesn't need to be grand. Sometimes it's writing a book no one's heard of. It's learning to play music after age 30. It's opening a small cafe even when no one supports you. It's choosing the path no one else takes, because you know, if you don't, you'll no longer be yourself. When you pursue what truly makes you feel alive, you stop depending on recognition. Because the energy comes from within, it can't be drained by apathy or fleeting praise. You no longer tire from pretending to fit in. You no longer panic when someone disapproves. You no longer question who you are, because every step feels like coming home, not getting lost. The sad truth is, many people live as replicas, copying others' dreams, walking pre-marked paths, only to reach the end and realize this was never their journey. They never lit up for anything. They only tried hard. Remember the last time your heart raced, not from fear, but from excitement. The last time you woke up eager to do something not because of a deadline, but because of passion. The last time you threw yourself into something without needing an audience. Those moments weren't random. They were signs of what truly brings you to life. And you deserve to live in that energy not once, but every day. Not to prove you're good, but to remind yourself you're still alive. Not to climb higher, but to dig deeper. Not to win admiration, but to stop asking permission to be yourself. Starting today, if you want to love yourself more deeply, begin by choosing your goals differently. Set aside what only sounds right. Be brave enough to return to what makes you light up inside, even if it's small, unconventional, or unproven. Because if you don't believe in what makes you come alive, then even the whole world believing in you won't make a difference. 7. Acknowledge every victory, no matter how small. We are taught how to set goals, but few are ever taught how to pause and look back at what they've overcome. And so, many adults carry eyes that are blind to their own journey. They only see what's missing. Not enough, not yet. They move forward not with gratitude, but with confusion. They try not out of belief in themselves, but out of fear that they still are nothing. There's a bitter truth everyone must face. If you don't learn to soothe yourself after every effort, no one else will do it for you. The world is too busy. Others may praise you once you succeed, but only you know the price you've paid along the way. Only you saw the moments you collapsed in silence, the times you kept going when no one encouraged you. If you don't learn to acknowledge yourself, you'll always see yourself as someone falling behind. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't waste time debating what a good person should be one. But becoming that person isn't a shining moment witnessed by others. It's a series of long days when you patiently got back up, silently corrected your mistakes, dared to choose again, dared to let go, dared to continue. It's the moments you refuse to react impulsively, the times you learned to forgive yourself, the times you knew no one saw your efforts and still you kept trying. If you never pause to respect those small victories, you'll unknowingly feed a toxic voice in your head. That you're not good enough, not far enough, not fast enough. That you must keep running, keep improving, keep hardening. And after living under that pressure long enough, pride fades and only fatigue remains. The habit of acknowledging yourself is not indulgence. It is the highest level of mental discipline. It requires you to resist the urge to compare, to resist your inner harshness, to resist the temptation to skip over yourself. It demands that you learn to say, "I did well today," even when no one else affirms it for you. Start with simple things. You broke a bad habit. You woke up earlier than usual. You withheld judgment of someone. You listened to yourself instead of filling the void with your phone. These are not small acts, they are micro shifts that change the trajectory of your life. Someone who truly loves themselves isn't always blazing with motivation, but quietly whispers to themselves, "I'm on the right path." They don't wait for praise to feel worthy. They generate their own light and fill themselves with silent but sincere validation. You don't need cheerleaders to know you're making progress. You just need a mind clear enough to observe and a heart kind enough to acknowledge. Because if you keep demanding more from yourself, keep trying to become someone better, but never offer yourself a compassionate glance, you will eventually burn out. Not because you're weak, but because you never learned how to refuel your soul with well-earned recognition. Try writing down 3 things you did well at the end of each day. Nothing flashy, nothing perfect. Just real. Say to yourself, I see you trying. I know you're not giving up. I'm proud of you. These simple words might be the ones you once wished someone had told you so now. Say them to yourself. Because if you learn how to celebrate yourself, the world will learn how to do the same. But if you keep ignoring every step forward, you'll go through life feeling like you're never enough, never right, never truly yourself. I used to think that self-love was a hollow concept, a sweet theory reserved for those with too much free time. But then came the days when I was the only one left to listen after recurring wounds, and I finally understood. If I don't learn how to be with myself, no one else can do it for me. Not because they don't want to, but because it's a responsibility that cannot be delegated. I was once very good at comforting others, yet completely clumsy when it came to soothing myself. I could easily forgive others' mistakes, but I was ruthlessly harsh with the cracks in my own soul. I walked through many such days silent, bracing myself and calling it strength. Until one late night, I realized I was breathing without truly living because I no longer felt anything for myself, no hate, no love, no connection. From that day on, I started again, not with grand declarations, but with small, honest actions. Acknowledging when I was tired, recognizing when I felt sad, forgiving myself when I was wrong, and being proud that I was still trying. I no longer waited for someone to rescue me from loneliness. I learned to stand beside myself, even in the most vulnerable moments. Self-love is not a destination. It is a habit difficult but absolutely essential for anyone who wants to live truthfully with themselves before living beautifully with others. If you feel this journey is one worth continuing, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss upcoming content. The journey of self-love isn't for the impatient, it's for those who dare to choose themselves, even through the hardest silences. Be the most dependable, lifelong companion to yourself. Be the anchor. Be the light. Be the one who stays. I'll see you again in the next video.